Thank you for choosing Flight Pro. Now that you've got your brand new FrSky Twin X14 radio pre-programmed from Flight Pro for your FMS PA-18 1300mm aircraft, I'm going to show you how it works. Once you get your battery connected in the back, we're going to press and hold the power button.
Welcome to Ethos. Throttle not idle. Switch warning. Throttle disabled. Flaps half. Motor not armed.
After a couple of seconds, it will turn on and give you some audible prompts. Some of those prompts may be things like your flaps are halfway, your throttle's not all the way down, it's not at idle. It's going to give you a checklist warning here on the front, so it's saying throttle's not idle. If you bring your throttle down to idle, that goes away.
Motor not armed.
And then your switches. Switch B is not in a safe position. This is for your flaps. When you power on an aircraft, you want everything to be in the neutral position. So this being in the up position is where you want it to be. But if things like throttle were active, then it's also going to give you SF, which is switch F is not in a safe position. So you would disable your throttle, you bring your flaps up, and now it's going to give you your main menu. Now we can go over basic controls. You've got your throttle on this side. You've got your rudder, your ailerons, and your elevator. That's your standard 4-channel configuration. This plane also has flaps.
Flaps half, flaps full, flaps half, flaps up.
And a stabilizer.
Stabilization on, stabilization off, stabilization on, self-level mode.
So the 3 positions here all the way down is off. In the middle is your stabilized, or what FMS calls optimized. And then all the way up is what they call stabilized, but we refer to it as self-level mode. That is the mode that's kind of designed for beginners. It will self-level the aircraft when you're off the sticks. It also limits your bank angle. So if you're giving it full aileron, the airplane may only turn about 45 degrees. And also helps you with takeoff and landing with a little bit of up elevator at full throttle. So there's a couple of safety things built into this radio as well. We've got our throttle advance.
Motor not armed.
When the motor is not armed, it will just tell you that the motor is not armed. That lets you know when you start blipping your throttle, if the throttle's not moving, the propeller's not spinning, why exactly that is. Up here is your throttle cut switch. So towards you is throttle cut, and away from you is throttle active. You notice the screen changes
Throttle disabled.
between throttle cut
Throttle active.
and throttle active, and it gives you a new screen here that's going to give you your battery telemetry here, tells you throttle is active, and then these are your 7 channels that are plugged into your receiver. Channel 1 is your ailerons. You can see the green line moving up and down for that. Channel 2 is your elevator. Channel 3 is your throttle. Channel 4, rudder. Channel 5 is your stabilizer, and so you can see channel 5 changing the different positions. Channel 6 is your flaps.
Flaps full. Flaps half.
And
Flaps
channel
up.
7 is your reverse thrust. That's this top left button here. It's a momentary switch, and you just pull on it.
Reverse thrust activated.
It'll activate reverse thrust and allow you can see both channel 7 goes up,
Throttle active. Reverse thrust activated.
and channel 3 actuates your throttle. So what this does is tells the
Throttle
ESC
active.
to turn the motor around the other direction, so it's going to push air forward. This is great if you're using the PA-18 on floats and you need to back up in the water, or if you just need to back up in general, or for short landings, if you need to stop quickly, you can press and hold this
Reverse thrust
while you
activated.
actuate the throttle, and you'll be able to
Throttle
slow down
active.
quickly. On that, there's a couple of safety features. If your throttle's advanced and you pull this
Throttle
lever,
idle before arming.
it tells you throttle to idle before arming. You can see channel 7 has not gone up yet, and channel 3 is still actuating normally. So this will be normal throttle because we haven't brought it down to 0. If we bring it down to
Reverse
0,
thrust activated.
it'll automatically tell you that reverse thrust is activated. You can see channel 7 moves, and now you have throttle for that channel.
Throttle active.
The other safety feature is none of this will work when throttle cut is on, and it tells you
Throttle disabled. Motor not armed.
the motor's not armed.
Motor not armed.
Same thing if you try to just advance the throttle, it'll say motor not armed when it's not engaged.
Throttle active.
Switch D over here is your rates, and there's 3 rates built into this, kind of a low, medium, and high. Low is 50%, medium is 70%, and high is 100%. And you can see that here when I move the ailerons. Right now it's on low rate, and you can see this is only going to 49%, 50% in both directions. So if we go to medium rate, you'll see this number jumps up to about 70. Same with the elevator. And then if we go high rates, then you'll see these lines now go full range up and down. This helps make the aircraft a lot less sensitive when it's in medium or low rates. On the back of the transmitter, there's also two momentary buttons. This one is your left hand, and this one would be for your right hand. And when you hold the transmitter, it's about where your middle finger sits, so it's pretty convenient to push the buttons. This one is self-level mode, and if the airplane is not already in, if it's in stabilized or stabilization off and you press and hold this button, self-level mode, it'll automatically go into self-level mode and hold it there as long as you hold this button. This one is a battery telemetry button, so it will tell you the battery pack voltage in the aircraft as long as you plugged in the telemetry wire, which from Flight Pro it comes so it plugs into the battery. Once you get it, if you're good with soldering or connecting wires, you can plug that in directly to the hot wire on the ESC. But for simplicity and making it easy to transfer your receiver from one plane to another, we just put a little plug on it, and I'll show you how to plug that in. So now let's plug in a receiver, and I'll show you how the telemetry works. We're going to make sure throttle cut is turned on. Throttle is at 0. Our receiver here is already wired up, and I've got it wired up to a 40 amp ESC and a motor just sitting here on the bench. It's wired up to our Reflex exactly as it would be in your plane, with reverse thrust plugged into channel 7. And we're going to go ahead and plug in our 3S battery. So you heard the audible tones where it beeped and then gave 3 beeps, which counts the cells in the battery, and gave the 2-tone audible beep at the end, telling you that the motor is now armed. Now our throttle cut is on, so if I move this, the motor's not going to spin and the transmitter is going to tell us that the motor's not armed. One thing that you'll notice now is battery voltage now says 0. That is because this little turquoise wire here needs to be plugged into the battery in order to get battery voltage. On all LiPo batteries, you'll find this balance port. This one being a 3S battery has 3 black wires and 1 red. Sometimes these black wires are a different color, but the red wire here is always red. So this red wire here is where this red wire gets plugged into, and we soldered on the extension here in red so that you know which plug this goes into. So you simply plug it into the battery itself there, and you'll see now it gives us a battery voltage display. So you'll notice now it says 11.08 volts, and as long as you have your telemetry cable plugged into your battery, the transmitter will always give you the voltage. We can test out the reverse thrust as well. Here's the motor. Let's go ahead and engage the throttle. You can see it's now moving. It's spinning this direction clockwise. And if we press and hold the reverse thrust and give it throttle, it now spins counterclockwise.
Throttle active.
Now I'll show you what happens when we get a low voltage warning. Since our voltage is already pretty low here, just above 11, and the low battery warning comes on at 11 volts, I'm going to go ahead and advance throttle to get this below 11 volts. And if it stays below 11 volts for more than 15 seconds, you'll hear that it gives a low voltage warning. So I have to advance the throttle pretty high because there's no load on the motor at the moment. Turn the volume up so we can hear it. So there's a low battery warning, and it's going to go ahead and repeat that, I believe, every 30 seconds to let you know that the battery is low. Once it gets below 11.5 volts, what I'm going to do here just to show you and test it is to unplug the telemetry, and that's going to drop the voltage down to 0. And now it's going to give a critical warning. So when the battery actually only gets below 10.5 volts, it'll give you that critical warning.
Low battery critical.
When the throttle cut is
Throttle disabled.
engaged, it turns off the warnings for the battery, because if you're sitting on the bench and you have a low battery in the plane, you don't want your remote to continue repeating at you low battery, critical battery. We already know that. We're no longer flying. So as long as your throttle cut is on, it won't give you the low battery warning, but it will still display the battery voltage as long as the battery is plugged in. So if you've got your telemetry cable plugged into your battery here, it'll still tell you what the battery voltage is so you can monitor it, but it won't give you the low battery warning anymore. As soon as you do engage the throttle,
Throttle active,
and that voltage stays below 11 or below 10.5,
battery critical,
it's going to go ahead and give you those warnings.
Throttle disabled.
A good rule of thumb is always to turn off your receiver before your transmitter. So one safety feature that this radio also has built into it is that if you press the off button,
Receiver is still on.
when the receiver is still on, it tells you that the receiver is still on, and it makes you confirm that you want to turn off the radio before the receiver. You never want to turn off the radio before you turn off your receiver, because then the receiver doesn't have a signal coming from your radio. It's going to go into failsafe. In this case, failsafe is already set up to kill the throttle, but it's also going to turn your rudder slightly so that the airplane, if it was flying and you lost signal from the radio, or the battery died in the radio while you were flying, the plane would hopefully kind of either circle in the area that it's currently at. It also turns on self-level mode, and so the plane should stay straight and level, and then just give a little bit of rudder to turn the airplane, hopefully spiral down and land safely. But either way, when you're on the bench or anything like that, and you go ahead and press this, it will just tell you that the receiver is still on. It reminds you to go ahead and unplug your aircraft first, and then power off your...
Receiver is still on. FSky critical warning.
Give it a second. Give it a second, and now it knows that the receiver is off. You heard the other audible sounds there telling you that RSSI, that's your connection with the receiver itself. When you power off the receiver, it's going to tell you that we no longer have communication with the receiver. That's a great thing to have, because it's going to tell you that while you're flying too. If your connection gets too low, it will go ahead and let you know that you're either too far away in a bad area finding interference or something like that. Distance itself shouldn't be an issue on these radios. They're good for several miles. I hope you enjoy the setup and the programming and the way that the PA-18 flies on this setup.